Okay, so for our study, we're going to have three parts. The first part is going to be to determine the range at which humans can hear well, so the range of frequencies. The second part will be to determine with the participants what frequencies do people perceive to be the loudest frequencies within this range. And whatever this loudest perceived frequency is, we will use to base off our real alarm that we will, our synthetic alarm that we will make. And then finally, part three will be to put our synthetic alarm head to head against the HCI alarm to see which one people actually find the loudest. So for the first part, I've made this prototype over here, and this is still a prototype, it's not the final version. There's still a few tweaks and recommendations that Pedro suggested, which I will apply. And also, I would like to mention that this part will be done not on the participants, but on ourselves, so that we can save time. Since we don't want to, this is not the most necessary. But essentially, the way this test works is that you'll hear a series of short and long beeps, which represent different Morse code letters, and you're supposed to say which letter was played. And if you can't hear correctly, then that means that you're not able to hear well at that frequency. And it will do this for many different frequencies and tell you what frequencies you're able to hear well at. So let's do a demonstration. So that was really, really high pitched, so it was not that easy for me to discern. I think it was C, but it might not be. It was, okay. So I could hear 14,000 hertz correctly. That one was harder to hear, it was very low. So I could hear it, but it's harder to discern since it's not that obvious. So I'm actually gonna put no idea, I'm not entirely sure. So I skipped 100 hertz. So that was pretty clearly K, that was easier. I can hear 250 hertz well. So I could hear that, but it was, again, hard to discern what exactly was heard. I think it might have been D, but I'm not entirely sure. Okay, it was wrong. That's so 17,000 hertz, which is a pretty high frequency I could not hear well. Okay, that's pretty easy. And then for the real one, this is not the final version, we're gonna standardize all the different lengths so that you can't really, because this is really easy, so I could tell it's only 2 beeps instead of 3, but we will fix that. Beep, 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 beep. So that was a V. So again, it's much easier when it's a frequency that you can hear well, which is the intention. I'm pretty sure that's F. Great. And so I got 5 out of 7 correct. The lowest frequency I heard correctly was 250 hertz, so the highest frequency I heard correctly was 14,000 hertz. So ideally, we'll do this with our group of 3, and then from that, we'll have a good baseline for what is the lowest frequency people can hear well and the highest frequency people can hear well, and then we will bring that range to part 2. And part 2, based on that range, so of course in the real one we would have many more, we wouldn't just do 7 different frequencies, but it's just to show you in the video in a shorter version. We would put the range of frequencies that people could hear well in part 1, and then we would actually do this with participants, and what essentially this is measuring what frequency people hear the loudest in a competition format. So we'll put different frequencies head to head against each other, and there will be like a last frequency standing, and each time people have to say, I hear this louder, I hear this louder. So let's try it. So clearly here, 14,000 frequencies, when I hover over it, it's not very loud, but 2,500 hertz, very, very loud. So I would select 2,500 hertz. This here is not as clear, but I would say probably still 2,500 hertz. Both loud, but probably still 2,500 hertz. This is pretty easy, much louder on the left. And then there you go. All the other frequencies have been eliminated, and it only leaves us with 2,500 hertz as the loudest frequency. So we would do this with all our participants, and from that we would establish like an average range which people perceive to be the loudest, and this perceived loudest frequency is what we would base our synthetic alarm off of. So we would have a synthetic alarm at this frequency, and then at part 3, and we don't have a prototype for that yet, we would put our alarm at presumably this frequency, but obviously we're actually going to do it with a lot of actual participants against the HCI alarm and see which was actually the best alarm.